Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike from M&R Automotive. Today we have a brand new GMC Sierra HD and we've installed a 40-inch Pro Series light bar that offers amber DRL as well as powerful bright lights. First thing we have to do, we're going to actually take off the top trim piece. All you have to do is push up on the head of the push pin, pry it up, and then when the head is up, then you just kind of get under it and take it out. One more thing we do have to remove before we lift this top off is the actual latch. It's a T10 ratchet. I'm going to go ahead and take these two bolts out. I'm not going to put them far because I'm going to reattach the latch after I remove this trim piece. So what I'm going to do, after removing these two bolts, I'm going to pull on it. And now we can raise the trim piece. Now I'm going to go ahead and reinstall the latch because if you do end up closing the hood, it's not going to be very fun opening the hood if you don't have the latch. Next thing I want to take off is these 10mm bolts. Alright, so I think we got everything from the top. Let's move to the sides of the truck. So now what I want to do, I want to actually separate this fender flare because when you pop this open, when you pop open those clips, there's going to be a one bolt right behind it that we have to loosen to be able to take this panel off. We also have to remove these two torque screws. They are T10 in order to be able to pull this open. So we're going to remove the two torque screws first. It's a T10 socket. That's two. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab the fender flare and I'm just going to clip a few. There's a bolt right here, so you don't have to unclip the whole thing, just a couple. One. There we go. Now we can squeeze a ratchet in here and remove this bolt. Alright, so you can see there's only 1, 2, 3 clips that I got unclipped in order to get to the bolt, so you don't have to remove a lot. Alright, and we'll remove this bolt that holds this piece here. Alright, so now this is also held on just clips. So now that we loosened everything, we can just grab it by the edges and pull forward. There it is. And there it is. That's how you pop this open. So now we're on the passenger side. We're going to do the same thing. First, two of the T10 torque screws. Now I'm going to go ahead and prop the fender flare up. Now let's go ahead and take out the 7mm bolt. Now that we remove that bolt, we can actually pry this piece open. I'm going to go ahead and pry these two pieces. Pry it down a little bit. And remove the trim piece. So this truck has windshield washer fluid on the front of the camera. So what you want to do, you want to unplug this line. What you do, you squeeze it, and when you squeeze the ends, you can just pull it out. So squeeze and pull. So now I'm on the passenger side. This version is equipped with a camera, so I'm going to go ahead and unplug this harness as well. With this one, you just press on this tab and pull it outward. Pop these tabs up. Just don't clip them from the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and come here. And the last clips on this grill were the ones on the bottom. Alright, now that we have the grill removed, let me show you what brackets you're going to receive with the M&R kit. A total of 4 brackets. You're going to receive 2 brackets that look like this. They are going to be black and powder coated. These brackets get mounted to the large 18mm bolts that are holding the bumper. And then after we reinstall the grill, we're going to have these brackets that are attached to the sides of the light bars, and we're going to mount them and bolt them like this after the grill's installed. So we're going to get started with the larger brackets first. Notice that they are interchangeable. They're the same for the driver and the passenger, and when you receive your kit, they are going to be powder coated black. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this 18mm bolt head. When I remove this bolt, I'm going to thread it through the M&R bracket, and I'm going to tighten it back up. Keep in mind, I'm only going to finger tighten it. The reason I want to do that is I want to align the light bar in between these holes before I do the final tie down of these bolts. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the passenger side. I'm going to rethread that original bolt through the M&R bracket, and same thing, I'm just going to finger tighten them. Now that we have the larger mounts installed, I'm going to go ahead and install the side cap mounts onto the light bars. So I'm going to go ahead and use supplied hardware, and I'm just going to thread that into the light bar. So make sure when you're installing the brackets onto the light bar that they are L-shaped, and the L of the bracket is facing inward and the bolt is facing down. And when we do the final install, this bolt thread is going to get attached into this mount like this. So let's go ahead and do the second side, put them in between, and then tighten the large nut. So now on the passenger side, I'm going to do the same thing. So on the passenger side, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to attach the side brackets. Once again, note that the bracket is facing inward as far as the bend of the mount, and that the bolts are facing down. All right, so now we're going to install this bracket into this one on both sides. And what we're going to want to do is look for the alignment to make sure it's centered. I usually take the center LED and I align it with the center of the grille assembly. And then when you do center it, we can go ahead and tighten the 18mm nuts. So this is going to be our final positioning of the light bar. So now that I've got those factory bolts tightened, let's go ahead and take off the light bar and reinstall the grille. Now it's time to remove the tape because the grille's on, we can't scratch anything. So just like we did in the previous step, I'm going to go ahead and install the light bar onto the mounts. And I'm going to use supplied nut to secure it from the bottom. Feel free to use a wrench to tighten these nuts. Now that the light bar is installed, let's go over the wiring. So the light bar comes with 3 wires. It has a black wire, which is the ground. It has the red wire, which is the power to the main function of the light, powerful white light. And it also has a white wire that gives power to the amber DRL. If your truck comes with auxiliary switches, you'll just have to provide power source using 2 switches to the red and the white wire to cycle through the functions. If your truck is not equipped with auxiliary switches, such as the one we're working on today, we're going to use the M&R wireless wiring harness to provide power to these wires and not having to drag any wires inside the cab because the switch panel is operated with a remote. So let me show you how I'm going to route the wire into the engine bay, and we'll give it some power. I'm going to run all my wiring behind and underneath the grille. So I'm going to thread my wire here. Okay, now from this part, I'm going to go ahead and route the wire right behind the headlight. There is an opening here, and that will make it easy to get it in the engine bay. So you can see I'm threading it up. I'm going to go ahead and grab it here and pull up all the slack. So the reason I chose the driver's side is because we do have a battery on this end. If your truck does not have 2 batteries and it's only on the passenger side, then you would technically do the same thing but running up the opposite end where the battery is. So here we have the wireless harness 1.0. Let's go ahead and unpackage it and see what's inside. The instruction manual, stickers for the buttons that we're going to put on the remote, wireless remote, just regular L brackets. Sometimes I like to use oversized zip ties instead of the L brackets. Makes it a lot easier. This is the wireless module that we're going to use to connect to the battery and put in all our light bars to. And here we have a master fuse. So it has a 80 amp breaker. I do want to talk about the breaker though. Let me take off this protective cover. So I want to show you guys, when this gets connected to the battery, one end gets connected to the battery, second end gets connected to the module. If the breaker is in line with the button, that means there's current going through it. The moment you press the button, that breaks the circuit, and now there's no power going to the module. So when I'm doing my installs, I usually press the reset button, open the breaker so there's no current, and when everything's nicely installed, you go ahead and snap it back in, and now everything's live. That goes for the positive on the terminal. The negative ground on the terminal, we have a grounding strap for our module, and there's also a small USB charger for the remote. So another thing I want to point out, on the instruction manual, there is a highlighted field. This is instructions how to pair the wireless remote to the module. So every time there's no current going to the remote for a long period of time, it de-learns what remote has to be paired with it. So there's pairing instructions. So whenever you put power back into the box, you have to press the 5th key counterclockwise, which is on the bottom right corner, and that's going to pair the remote to the module, and then everything's going to start working. All right, let's go ahead and connect the wiring to the box and get it installed. All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and there's 4 Phillips screws on the corners of the box. And when we open it, you can see everything's nicely epoxied, and you have the 8 different circuits ranging for different amperages, and they have different fuses installed. So you have your 5 amp fuses, you have your 10 amps, 20 amps, and even 30 amps. So on here you have a plus sign. This shows you that this is for the positive terminal, and this is for the ground. One end of this is going to go towards the battery. The second one is going to go inside the module. So I'm going to slide this wire underneath it, and there's slots here to bring in all your wiring, because when you put the cover on, it'll interfere. And I'm going to loosen this terminal. It's just a Phillips screw. And I'm going to slide the forks of the red wire under the contact plate. So that's going to be the power. And we're going to do the same thing to the ground. Slide it underneath, direct it underneath the contact plate, and tighten it. So now that we have the positive and the negative connected, we can go ahead and connect the positive and the ground to the vehicle's battery. Let's go ahead and do that. So now I'm going to go ahead and take off this protective cover. Slide this power terminal right underneath this bolt, and I'm going to tighten it back up. Now we're done with the power side of the module. Let's do the same thing with the ground. So the ground, we have a ground side of the battery, which is a negative terminal. I'm going to loosen the ground bolt, and I'm going to slide the terminal right underneath it, and then retighten the bolt. So now we provided power and ground to the power distribution box. So now that we have the positives and the negatives of the module connected, let's go ahead and connect the wiring from the light bar to it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to connect the main power, which is the powerful white light. I'll put it on a 20 amp circuit, and then the white wire, which is the amber DRL, I'll go ahead and put it on 10. So for example, let me go ahead and use switch number 4. So I'm going to loosen the terminal. I'm going to bring the wire from the bottom. The main reason why I want to do that, there's a metal cover that goes on top of it. So I'm going to go ahead and connect the red wire to the 20 amp and tighten it. Okay. I'm going to connect the black wire, which is the ground, to the negative of the 20 amp and tighten it. So we connected the ground onto the negative terminal of the 20 amp circuit, and we connected the red wire as the positive. All these grounds are interconnected, and they're all grounded out on this thick black wire. We can use another circuit for the amber DRL without having to ground that side, because it's already grounded on the previous circuit. So I'll show you right now, once I tighten it, how I have my wiring. So the positive is on the 20 amp, and the positive for the DRL is on the 10, and it's grounded onto the 20 amp, but all the grounds are interconnected, so everything looks good. So the first thing we have to do is, once we flip that switch, we have to pair this remote to this module. All right, so when I flip the master fuse, I'm gonna go ahead and hit button number 5 times until this starts blinking. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See when it's blink? It means it's paired. And now we've used button number 1, 2, 3. Button number 4 is going to be the white light, and button number 5 is going to be the DRL. So let's go ahead and test it. So we're going to use this button to control the amber DRL. The amber DRL is legal to drive on the road because it doesn't blind oncoming traffic. And whenever you need the powerful bright light, you hit another switch, and this one is for off-road use only. I'm going to take this remote, install it somewhere inside the cab, and we're ready to go on an adventure to do a night output video. Thank you guys for watching. I know you guys are going to love the product, and I hope you guys learned something today.